Good evening and welcome back to Annenberg Radio's special election coverage from Where We Vote. I'm Malcolm Caminero coming to you live from Studio B in USC's Annenberg Media Center.
And I'm Jack Waterman. Today is Super Tuesday, March 5th, 2024. Polls here in California have just closed at 8 o'clock. President Biden cruised to victory and he isn't facing any major competition. Former President Trump won the Republican primary. He has claimed victory in 12 states tonight. Trump's sole GOP rival, Nikki Haley, won only the state of Vermont. So it's looking ever more likely that we will see a Biden versus Trump rematch in November. Trump spoke earlier this evening, and we'll bring you some of his victory speech later in the show. Trump vowed to unify what he called a divided country. President Biden said a second Trump term would bring the country back to chaos, division, and darkness. Let's get back up to speed with everything that's happened since we last left you. As expected, President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump are dominating today's voting, as we mentioned, with another political showdown seemingly on the books. Thus far, Trump is the projected winner in California, Massachusetts, Virginia, North Carolina, Arkansas, Alabama, Maine, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Colorado, Minnesota, and Texas. We will keep you updated with all the races throughout the night. Trump, however, did not make a clean sweep as Nikki Haley managed to win Vermont. However, her odds dwindle as the night stretches on. On the other side of the ticket, President Biden also has won California, and Biden is facing virtually no competition. The California polls closed at 8, and votes in all races are being counted. We'll bring you updates as soon as we get them. And finally, we'll look at what all of this means with November elections approaching. And now we are going to live to our Annenberg reporter, Natalie Lozano.
I'm at the forum and we have an engaged public here. We're back with our panelists and I have the pleasure of talking to Mr. Luis Alvarado, a public affairs consultant with expertise in representation, government, business, and Latino communities. He's also president of Familias Unidas de California. Gracias por estar aquí conmigo el día de hoy. I wanted to ask you, why did you decide to participate in this panel tonight at USC?
Well, I was invited, first of all, and I have a great amount of respect for USC and the Annenberg Communications Department and what's happening here with between the faculty and the students. And truly, I see that this is the future of communications, not just at the local basis, but national and international basis. So I'm very proud to be here.
Thank you so much. Based on the GOP election tonight, what do you expect to happen in November?
What I expect that it's going to be a very hard-fought campaign between both nominees. Once we get past the conventions, I believe that there's going to be a greater ideological battle, even in families. I mean, the nation is incredibly divided, in the household between, the senior citizens, the breadwinners, and the new generation of voters. They'll have different expectations of why they're voting for one candidate or the other. And I'm also going to look at the down ballot to see who's going to be controlling Congress, because ultimately whoever gets elected president has to work with Congress.
Thank you so much for that. And also, I just wanted to get kind of like a sense of you've done this before. You've been in the running before, and what have you learned from that experience? What was your takeaway from that?
Well, first of all, it's very difficult for anybody to put the name in the hat and be a candidate. It's incredibly, for me, respectful of those people who actually want to do something positive for their communities. Let's accept the fact that there may be one or two bad apples out there who give the political process a bad name. But ultimately, without politics, you're not going to have qualified people to lead. You're not going to have people who are going to make the water come, the electricity run, and the light signs and the police work. Ultimately, we need, as a society, we need competent people to actually make the decision making of how the resources of the taxpayers get divided, and how do we make decisions of what are the priorities to help our next generation of students become the leaders that we need them to be for the future of this country.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
It's always a pleasure. Anytime.
Back to you, Malcolm and Jack.
Thank you, Natalie. Once again, that was Natalie Lozano at USC's Annenberg Media Super Tuesday Forum. Joining us in studio is Jude Ocañez with an update on Donald Trump.
Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump spoke at Mar-a-Lago just a couple minutes ago as Trump is projected to win primary contests in at least 11 Super Tuesday states. CNN reported that Trump's team is aware he will unlikely pass the threshold to become the presumptive Republican nominee. However, they hope a definite win tonight will effectively force his lone GOP opponent, Nikki Haley, out of the race.
Well, thank you very much. They call it Super Tuesday for a reason. This is a big one. And they tell me, the pundits and otherwise, that there's never been one like this. There's never been anything so conclusive. This was an amazing night, an amazing day. It's been an incredible period of time in our country's history. It's been sad in so many ways, but I think it's going to be inspiring because we're going to do something that, frankly, nobody's been able to do for a long time.
Going on, at the podium, Trump talked about the recent inflation problem in the country, pointing the blame on current President Joe Biden.
What's happened with inflation has been unbelievable. A lot of people say, a lot of experts have said the stock market's the only thing that's doing well, and that's doing well because our poll numbers are so much higher than Joe Biden's.
Continuing in that similar fashion, Trump didn't hold back his thoughts on Biden's tenure as president.
He's the worst president in the history of our country. There's never been anything like what's happening to our country.
Trump carried on to talk about his success with the border in his tenure as president, calling it the safest border we've ever had.
We had the safest border in the history of our country. We built 571 miles of wall. We had Mexico supply us with 28,000 soldiers because we wanted them, that's why. And they said, we won't do that. I said, yes, you will, you will. And in the end, they did. It was an easy negotiation, but we had the safest border, the best numbers we've ever had, and now we have the worst numbers probably in the history of the world.
From Annenberg Media, I'm Judo Kanyas.
Thank you for joining us, Jude. We appreciate your time. The polls closed just 20 minutes ago, and results are flooding in. Eric Trevino is here to report on the final ballots, joining us again from Cowlings and Ilium Residential College at the USC Village. My apologies, 40 minutes ago. Eric, how's it going out there?
Hello, Malcolm. I'm still here outside of Cowling Residential College, where, like you said, the USC polling station is at. I saw people, primarily students, making their way to the polls right up until the very last minute. I even saw some students running to get their ballots dropped off by mail. But now it's just students making their way back to their dorms. It's important that voters know that if they were in line before 8, they can stay in line until they cast their vote, and they don't have to leave the line. But that is definitely not the case here. The polls have fully closed, and workers have already packed everything up. Back to you, Malcolm.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. Well, it's good to know that people were out and voting. That's pretty awesome.
I know. I'm happy that, they realized that they needed to go vote and made it happen. That's good.
Yeah. I will say I sent my mail-in ballot mostly because my mother reminded me.
As mothers do. Yes, of course.
So I appreciate her for that. And I do think it's encouraging. I think this is very good for the future of our democracy, that at least young people are sort of jumping back into the idea of being civically engaged and sort of understanding what's going on politically, both locally and at the national level.
Well, I mean, as we were talking about earlier, you being a first-time voter and many of the students who are living in those rooms just right by that polling location, this is their first time as well. So there's always that hope that at these polling locations that, they'll recognize that it's a relatively easy process, that they can get it done, and this will inspire them to continue to vote, especially come November, because, this one's important, but the real elections happen in November. So
without a doubt. So be sure to look at the elections coming up in November and just making sure that we're all focused on voting for the right thing. Yep. If you're following the elections on television tonight, you might have seen live footage from LA County's ballot processing center in the City of Industry. It's quite a scene, actually. Our reporter AC Schick is live there right now. AC, can you hear us?
Hi, Malcolm. Yes, I can.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Do you mind telling us what is a ballot processing center and what's going on there right now?
Yes. So I'm here actually at a former Fry's Electronics, which is now LA County's ballot processing center. It is huge. It is about 2.5 football fields, and that's for the 5.6 million registered voters here in LA County. Those 644 vote centers and over 400 ballot boxes the voters have been able to vote at are all counted here.
So once a ballot arrives, right, from all of these different polling locations, what is its journey? Where does it go?
So it's basically a 3-step process. First, the ballot is extracted. So it's opened in the center in one area. And then once they just open it, they see it there, then we move to a second location in this giant building. And that's where the signature is verified. And this is the same process for either if it's mail-in ballots or if they're being dropped off. And then finally, after the ballot is the signature is verified, then we move to a third very secure glass room where this process are prepared to be tallied. Inside, there's no Wi-Fi and there's no phones in that room.
It seems like it's a pretty secure location. Is there security there? If so, what is it like?
Absolutely, Malcolm. So first of all, the security as well as the ballot workers are planning to be here until about 3 a.m. tonight, but there's also 24/7 on-site guards and security. The first 2 people I spoke to were both security guards, and that's before even making it inside. There's also 24/7 live stream where you can see that glass building and 24/7 cybersecurity monitoring. It has a fully fenced premise, and over 200 security cameras are providing full visibility inside and outside. So we're here waiting for the sheriff's department to come in the cruisers where they're going to bring those live ballots from people who are voting in person today. So we're still waiting on that, but it should be coming pretty soon.
And so I know you described the environment a little bit, but these polling workers, these people who are counting these ballots, is it like a stressed, hectic environment, or does everyone kind of seem like they know what they're doing and it's like a well-oiled machine?
Well, right now it's pretty quiet. So they're actually all on break because they're really waiting for those in-person ballots. So the main buzz is the press and this side of the room. So once those cruisers come and drop off all those in-person ballots, then they're expected to come back, and they will be working again until about 3 a.m. is their expectation. But then also till the end of the month is when the centers plan to be opened with ballot workers there. And the March 29th is whenever the election results are supposed to be certified. But basically up until then, until the end of the month, people will be here and, hopefully get that well-oiled machine.
Okay, thank you very much, AC. Once again, that was AC Schick reporting from the City of Industry. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Malcolm. Bye.
AC that's crazy there. Till 3 a.m. She's hanging out there right now. That this hasn't even begun. They've gotten all the ballots that have been there already, but think about the thousands, tens, hundreds of thousands of ballots that are still coming in. That's such important work, but for those who are confused about how these ballots are getting counted, that seems like, those are all your answers right there. It's a very secure process. They've got all the steps down. So it'll be interesting to see how those ballots, turn out. But it sounds like we are ready to go back to our live reporter, Natalie Lozano. She is here with another panelist from our USC Annenberg Forum. Natalie, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you guys. Thank you so much. I'm here with Jessica Yellen, a Peabody, Gracie, and Emmy award-winning political journalist. She's with us right now. She now reports the news through Instagram at Jessica Yellen. And we just kind of wanted to ask you, what have you learned tonight during the Super Tuesday panel?
Hi. Well, I think one of the most interesting developments of the night is watching sort of the returns have come in with Nikki Haley's percent of the vote and how much she's drawn from Trump. It's been interesting to listen to the other analysts and hear what they expect to happen with those voters. Will they go to Trump in the end? Will they go to the Biden? And who sort of will make the decision in the end about who are the most gettable voters?
Yeah, absolutely. And, what has surprised you about today's elections?
I think that the returns for Nikki Haley winning Vermont was meaningful because it suggests that Trump has an extreme weakness among moderate Republicans, college-educated Republicans. I think that switching back to California, the quick result in the Senate race between Garvey and Schiff shows that, there's that's going to be a fierce battle between the two of them. The distance between the two of them and the rest of the field was meaningful. And then I just really have enjoyed talking to the other folks on this panel. They have such a variety of perspectives. Anybody listening at home should consider coming to the panel for the next election night.
Absolutely, I have to agree with you there. We want to kind of get your expertise on this. You are a CNN White House correspondent. Do you think that you could describe to the best of your ability Joe Biden's mental and physical state for us?
I find it interesting that I'm being asked only about Biden's and not about Biden and Trump. I think that they both are elderly men who have some deficits. And I think that without a question, Biden is capably managing government at the moment. And Donald Trump's running an aggressive campaign. So they're both older men, but the fact that we're fixating on the narrative that one's old and the other isn't, not you in particular, but all of the media, is about what the media does. They lock onto a narrative, they drive it into the ground. No matter what other evidence shows up, we get dogged about that. And I would suggest that, compare the two guys. They're both older folks.
You absolutely read my mind. That was my follow-up question, because we know that Trump's only a couple years younger. But we wanted to hear your opinion on, Trump said that he would unite the country. Do you think that's true? Do you think you could go more in depth on what you were just saying about?
So I spent my career covering Washington politics. I did local news first, and then I spent 10 years in Washington. I ended up as the chief White House correspondent at CNN in the Obama years. I've watched so many elections. I've been so many places. One of the things we do is we just grab onto a storyline that we can ride. And in this election, it's a little hard because it's a bit of a rerun, right? We've seen this race before, and voters are not that engaged or excited. So the media is looking for ways to make drama. And this is one of the ways to make drama. Can Trump unite the country? I mean, this is not even what he's arguing he wants to do. He doesn't even make the case that he's there to unite the country. So that's not his vision, and it's evident that where we are today, he won't unite the country. You could argue neither of them has that because this country is so deeply polarized.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, Ms. Yellen. We really appreciate it. Back to you. I'm Natalie Lozano. Back to you, Malcolm and Jack.
Thank you. Once again, that was Natalie Lozano with CNN White House correspondent Jessica Yellen. California polls closed at 8 p.m. We are bringing you some of the early California votes. It looks like about 40% of the vote is in. Trump has been declared the winner. So far, he has about 65% of the vote, with Nikki Haley receiving about 30% of the votes in the Golden State. On the Democratic side, Joe Biden easily rolled to victory with more than 90% of the vote.
We really appreciate you listening, and we'll be back with more of our Super Tuesday election night special at 9:30 tonight. And then we'll hear from even more special guests, voters, and experts. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back here in just a bit. I'm Jack Waterman.
And I'm Malcolm Caminero. See you next hour for
From Where We Vote.